Good morning, Hamilton County Elementary School 4th graders. Happy Tuesday. We are on day 2 of week 4. Today we are closing in on the end of our line plot lessons. Hopefully, since this was guided practice, hopefully you guys have tried to do some of this on your own before coming to the video, so you have a better understanding of where you are going wrong, if you are getting it wrong, or maybe you just want to pop in and check some of your answers. Yesterday was day 1. We went through subtracting with line plots, and today we're going to add in our knowledge of line plots, how we organize our line plots, adding with line plots, and subtracting with line plots. We're going to combine all those skills we've learned in the last couple of days and really put them to work and see how well we understand. Okay, so we are working in page 296 through 297 of the instructional book, pages 299 through 300 in the practice, and then we have our day 8 countdown. Let's get to it. Excuse me. My throat is a little scratchy this morning. Alright, so this is our instructional book, page 296. Also, I did want to say I have been receiving a lot of y'all's work, and it's been awesome, and I've gotten some feedback to y'all. Hopefully I'll finish the feedback up sometime this afternoon. What I would love, though, when you're taking these pictures, try to make sure that you're getting that page number in there where I can see it, because if I can't see it, I kind of have to hunt through the book and kind of have to match the different problems. And it's a little difficult, especially for those of you that are just now getting me week 1 and week 2, because that was forever ago for me, and so I don't remember it as well, and I really have to hunt through the pages. So if you're sending me pictures of your work, please, please, please remember to show that page number in the pictures, or even if you can't, if your photo frame doesn't allow it, put it somewhere where I can see it and just say, leave a little note for me. Alright, so straight into our guided practice. Let's look at this example together. Sue recorded the distances she ran in 1 week. How far did she run altogether? So this is how much she ran for the whole week. And they want to know how much it would be altogether. So it sounds like we're going to be adding up these times, or these distances, in miles. I said, look at how you could show your work using a number line. So we're going to take this line plot and we're going to make it into a number line. And how we're going to do this is we're going to find the smallest unit fraction on our line plot. The smallest unit fraction is 1/8. And so we want all of our denominators to be an 8. And remember how we did this the other day and the day before? It can be real easy. We can just count. If this is 1/8, this would be 1 2/8, 1 3/8. This would be 1 4/8. I'm just going to put it off to the side because I'm kind of running out of room already. 1 5/8. This would be 1 6/8. 1 7/8 and 2. And they went ahead and they made the number line for you. They put in all the values of the distances that she ran, and then all they did was they said, okay, she moved 1/4, right? Yep. Then she moved 1/2 and 1/2 and 7/8. So they added up all of those fractions, and then they pulled out the whole numbers, and they got 9 1/8 miles. Let's put some of this to work now. Number 18, a marine biologist at an aquarium records the lengths of the dolphins in feet. Make a line plot of the data shown below. So the first thing we want to do is we want to label our line plot. This is going to be the length of dolphins in feet. So below here, length of dolphins in feet. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look for our smallest unit fraction. Our smallest unit fraction looks like it's going to have an 8 as a denominator. So we're going to say this is, oh no, we're not making a number line. Pause, we're making a line plot. So we want to put these in order. So our smallest fraction is going to be 8.5. So that's what we're going to start our line plot with. If you're unsure of how to figure that out, you can always order these to the side. So 8 1/2 is our smallest. Then it goes to, let's see, that would be 8.5. That is the same as 8 4/8. So that's 8 4/8. This would be 8 5/8. Then we would have 8 3/4. 3/4. Then we would have 8 7/8. Then it would be, this would be 8 8/8, so this would be 9. I didn't want to put that up there, it would be alright. Then we would have the smallest 9 8/8 would be 9 1/8. Then we would have 9 1/4, because that's the same as 9 2/8. Then we would have to put 9 3/4 or 3/8 here, because if that's 2/8, this would be 3/8. Then we would need to put 9 1/2. Then 9 5/8. I'm sorry if I'm getting a little sideways with my lines. 9 3/4. 9 7/8. And then this would be 10, because 9 8/8 would be 10. Alright, now we're just going to fill in our line plot. So we have 8 1/2, we have 1. We don't have any 8 5/8, but we do have 8 3/4. We actually have, we have 2 8 1/2s. 8 7/8, we have 1. Then we have 9, which we don't have any 9s. We don't have any 9 1/8, but we do have a 9 1/4 right here. And do we have another? Yep, 9 1/4. 9 3/8, we do not have any. We do have a couple 9 1/2. That's 1, 2, 3. 9 5/8, we have 1. Do not have any, and that's it. And that's all they're asking us to do. Alright, so all I did was I started my line plot with my smallest unit, which was 8 1/2. I knew 8 1/2 was going to be my smallest unit, because if I were to change it in eighths, it would equal to 8 and 2/8, 4/8. Excuse me. Nope, I was right. 8 2/8. Alright. Or no, I was right. 4/8. I knew that 8 3/4 was going to be the same as 8 6/8. That's why it's over here by the 8 7/8. The 9 1/4, I used that same thought process. I wanted that to be an 8. If this is 9 1/8, this would be 9 2/8, 9 3/8, 9 4/8, 9 5/8, so on and so forth. Okay. Turning the page to number 19. I just need to get a better... I'm having issues this morning. Number 19. A park has several trails of different lengths. The lengths of the trails are shown in the line plot. Ellie's family hiked all the trails that are 1 3/8 miles long. How far did they hike? So first we need to make our line plot. Maybe we'll do a couple different colors, that way we don't get too confused. We have, they hiked all the trails that are 1 3/8 miles long. So let's see, if we had hang on. That's silly. I already have my line plot up here. That shows you how awake I am this morning. Pay attention, Miss Hotchkiss. So, they hiked all the trails that are 1 3/8 miles long. So, we had how many trails that were 1 3/8? Alright, here's our 1 3/8 miles. Remember, each of these X's is one trail. So, we had 3 trails. So, we could do 3 times 1 3/8. Or you could use repeated addition and say 1 3/8 plus 1 3/8 plus 1 3/8, which if we were to take out our whole numbers, that would be 1, 2, 3. And then we add our fractions in. That's 3, 6, 9. Eighths. We don't want to leave this improper, so we're going to pull this over here and change it into a mixed number. 8 goes, I'll do this long-handed so you guys can see. 8 goes into 9 one time. We subtract. We have 1 1/8. And then we just go back down here and we add 3 plus 1 1/8. We add in our whole numbers. 3 plus 1 is 4, and then we just bring our fraction over because we're not adding our fraction to anything. If you were going to do this multiplication, you want to change this mixed number into an improper fraction. 8 times 1 is 8. We add 3, 8, 9, 10, 11. 3 times 11/8 equals 33/8, and then we just change this into a mixed number by dividing. 8 goes into 33 4 times, that's 32. We have 4 1/8. You can do it either way, whichever way you're more comfortable with. Number 20. It says, use the line plot in problem 19. What is the difference in length between the longest trail and the shortest trail? Circle the correct answer. So our longest trail is 1 7/8. Our shortest trail is 3 1/4. So what do we need to do? It says, what is the difference? So we're going to be subtracting. We are subtracting our longest trail, which is 1 7/8, and we're going to subtract that from our shortest trail, which is 3/4. Now, we have a problem here. We have two different kinds of denominators. We can't subtract fractions with different denominators. So we're going to take this 3/4 over here, and we're going to give it a denominator of 8. What do we need to multiply our numerator and denominator by in order to get 8 as a denominator? Well, 2 times 4 is 8, and whatever we do to the bottom, we must do to the top. 2 times 3 is 6. So now we have 1 7/8 minus our 6/8. And then all we have to do is go through and subtract. 7 minus 6 is 1. Our denominator doesn't change, and we don't have anything to subtract our whole number by. So 1 1/8 mile is the difference between our shortest trail and our longest trail, and that would be B. Now, down here it says Tom chose D as the correct answer. How did he get that answer? So let's see, his answer says 2 5/8. So I'm thinking he might have subtracted without changing. If we take 7/8 Yeah. So if he got D, he must not have done this first step of changing this fraction to an equivalent fraction of with a denominator of 8. He must have just gone right through and said 7 minus 3 is 5, and then just left the denominator of the first fraction, is how he would get that answer. So, did he add? Oh, and he got a 2. So, not only did he not change the denominator, he added. He added instead of subtracting. Silly. That was a silly mistake to make. That's why it's so important that you look into these word problems and really read them through so you know what they're asking you to do. It said in the very beginning, what is the difference? So Tom must not have read his question very thoroughly. Did he? Alright. Practice book, page 299. 299. It says, the line plot, we're on number 1, the line plot shows the finished times of races run by a relay running team. That's interesting. What is the difference in minutes between the team's 2 fastest times? So our line plot isn't measuring distance this time, it's measuring time. Let's make sure. And it's asking us what is the difference in minutes. So we want to read our line plot and find the 2 fastest times. So we're not going to be looking over here on our line plot because these times were slow. These times are going to be our fastest time. So we had one time at 3.5, and then we had another time at 3.25. And we're finding the difference, so we are going to be subtracting. Now, what's the problem? The problem is our fractions do not have the same denominator. And so what we need to do is we need to change those denominators so they have equal, or not equal, they have 8 as a denominator, because 8 is our smallest unit in our fraction line. So we know that at this point, we know that a half, which is right here, is equivalent to 4/8. Let's count. That'd be 1/8. This would be 2/8, 3/8, 4/8. Minus, bring our operation down, 3/4, which would be, if this is 3 1/8 and this is 3 3/8, this must be 3 2/8. And then we can just subtract out. Our 3's cancel each other out because 3 minus 3 is 0. 4 minus 2 is 2/8. Now, what happened? I don't have 2/8 listed. I need to reduce my fraction. I need to simplify it. Do we remember how to simplify fractions? If we have 2/8, I know that 2 goes into 2 and 8. So I'm just going to divide it out. And whatever I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2 divided by 8 is, whoops, hang on. Do I want to do it that way? It would be, which would be the same. 2 divided by 8 would be 4. So we have B, 1/4 of a minute. Number 2, use the line plot in problem 1. What is the total amount of time the team spent running in relay races? So they want us to add up all, add up all of our times. So we had 1 at 3.5 times. So we have 3.5 plus we had 1 at 3/4 plus we had 2 that are 3 or that were 3 minutes. We had 1 that was 2 3/4, 1 that was 2.5. I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off into the world, and then 2 3/8. All I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my whole numbers out real quick. That's 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So my whole numbers equal 18 plus my fractions, which I have a bunch of fractions here that have different denominators. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my key that I made up here. I know that a half is the same as 2/8 plus a fourth, or excuse me, a half is 4/8. A fourth is 2/8 plus these didn't have fractions. 3/4 was 6/8 plus a half was 4/8 plus 3/8. And we don't have to do anything with that because that denominator did not have to change. So we have, let's add our numerators. 4, 5, 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19/8. Let's make sure. 4, 5, 6, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yep. So we have 19/8, and we need to change this into a mixed number. So we divide. 8 goes into 19. How many times? Twice. So that's 16. I'm sorry if you're having a hard time reading it. I kind of went into the margin here. I'm just dividing this out. 9 minus 6 is 3. So we have 2 3/8. So we're going to add 2 3/8 to our whole numbers that we already added. 18 plus 2 is 20. And we had nothing to add our fraction to, so that stays the same. So our answer is 20/3/8 minutes is the total time for all of the relay teams. Miriam chose B as the correct answer. How did she get that answer? So instead of getting what we got, she got 17 3/8 minutes. It could be that she added together the race times, but she forgot to add 3 twice. You know, she wasn't paying attention to the fact that this 3 had 2 values, not just 1. So we're going to put, she did add. She added, but she forgot one of the 3s. Alright. Almost done, guys, for our Tuesday. Don't forget, tomorrow we're starting a new lesson. And so, excuse me. And so you're going to have to make sure you have your math journal tomorrow, because we do have some vocabulary we're going to be going over. It is kind of a review for some of you, because we did get to, some of us got to do our Angles projects before we left for quarantine, I guess you could say, but nonetheless, you still need that math journal tomorrow. So when you come on, you're going to want your instructional book, your practice book, your countdown, and your math journal. Alright, countdown, day 8. Missy bought 4 umbrellas, each costing $13. She bought 5 hats, each costing $6. How much did she spend in all? Still working on our multiplicative sentences. We know that each means we're going to multiply. So we have 4 times the cost, which is 13. And we're adding these together. And so we're going to get our hats. We had 5 hats, each costing $6. Remember, my parentheses are just there to keep my numbers separate. This is just umbrellas. This is just hats. So 4 times 13, 4 times 3 is 12, carry the 1, 4 times 1 is 4, plus the 1 would be 5, and then 5 times 6 is 30, so altogether she spent $82. Chad has $35 and each umbrella costs $11. He writes the equation shown, 35, so how much he had, divided by $11, because that's how much each umbrella costs, and he got 3 remainder 2. What does the number 2 represent in terms of Chad's money? Well, if the umbrellas cost $11, he knows he can get at least 3, or at most, I should say, 3 umbrellas. So this, what is left over, is referring to his money. This is referring to the $2. The 2 refers to the amount of money that Chad has left over after buying 3 umbrellas. Alright, number 3. Ooh, that's going to be a hard word to pronounce. Fernie. It's an interesting name. Bought 4 umbrellas and 2 hats. 4 umbrellas, 2 hats. And spent between $40 and $60. Each umbrella is going to cost the same. Each hat's going to cost the same. The price of the hat is $8. What is the least amount and Fernie could have spent on an umbrella, and what is the most Fernie could have spent on an umbrella? So first we need to find out how much of our money, or how much of Fernie's money she has left after she buys her hats, because we do have a dollar value for the hats. If she bought 2 hats at $8 a piece, 2 times 8 is 16. So, and we're wanting to find out the least amount she could have spent. We're going to subtract the smallest value we could spend, 40, and we're going to take our hats out, leaving us $24. And if we had 4 umbrellas, we can divide 24 by 4. 4 goes into 24 6 times evenly. So the least amount would be $6. And if I lost you, rewind and go back through the steps with me. The most she could spend, so we're going to take our highest value, 60. We're going to subtract out our hats. So we had 60. We spent 16 on hats. Subtracting. So we want to divide 44 by 4 this time. Our 4 umbrellas, we had $44 left after our hats. 4 goes into 44. 11 times 4 is 44, and they all cancel out. So the most she could spend was $11. Number 4, go through, pause the video. I'll give the answers in just a minute, but pause the video, work through these equations, and tell me if which equation is false. Okay. So we know that A is going to be false because when we add 42 and 11, we get 53. And then when we add 38 plus 20, we get 58. So those are not going to be equal. And then D is going to also not be true. 5 plus 3 is 8, 7. And then if you even subtracted 65 from 13, you already know you're going to get a smaller number because you subtracted. Alright. Number 5. Alright, so we are justifying the equation. And all that means is that we are going to say what value m is in comparison to the other side of the equation. So if we were going to try and make this equation true, normally we would go through and we would say we would add 5 and then we would take 5. Now if we did that, once we do that, I should say, you go through the countdown, or not the countdown, the options, and find out which is true. A says the value of m is 9 more than 44 because when I add 44 plus 4, then subtract 5, my value of m is 43. This makes the equation true. Well, that's not true because that's not what we get. B says the value of m is 9 more than 44 because when I add 44 plus 4 and then add 5, my value of s is 43. This makes my equation equivalent. Well, that's not true because we're not talking about s, we're talking about m. C says the value of m is 9 more than 44 because when I add 44 plus 4, if you were to add these two together and then subtract the 5, the value would be 53. I like that one. And it is true. What does D say? The value of m is 9 more than 44 because when I add 44 plus 4... Okay, so this wouldn't be it because we were not subtracting it. It would be C. Alrighty. That concludes day 2, week 4. It also concludes our line plot lessons. If you're still having a hard time with these, please contact me. Please use the additional links found below the videos when I do find something that would help you guys out. I know I added a couple links to day 1 yesterday after I posted, but I did say something on Facebook about that so you would have the chance to go back and look through that. But be ready tomorrow. We are starting with angles. Angles, 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 acute, right, obtuse, degrees, just some of the vocabulary we're going to go through tomorrow. Make sure you have your math journal. And I shall see you guys tomorrow. Bye.